Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another exciting conversation with a deeply impactful special guest today. As we get started, I want us to think about what does it take to shape history by nurturing youth? And the reason I asked this question today is that's exactly what we're going to talk about. History is made by people who consciously, intentionally shape the lives of others, not only by people who make history for themselves. And we forget that women all over the world, through their nurturing, the way they raise families, the way they sustain society, they are shaping history. They are making history, except they're not recognized by the writers of history as having made history. As we start Women's History Month, I want us to take a deeper journey into what does history making mean? What does it truly mean, and how are we as individuals shaping history, whether we are recognized for it or not? And it's important to honor our everyday quiet heroes who are making this world a better place, who are investing in others, and who are shaping history, whether the world recognizes them or not. And to have this important conversation is a personal friend of mine and a woman who shapes history by nurturing youth and transforming lives every day without even thinking of it as something special, because that's who she is. It's not what she does. It is who she inherently is. So please welcome my dear friend and a difference maker in our world on an everyday basis, Omara Fonseca. Omara, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I almost had to look around to see who you were talking about.
I am talking about you. As we get started, Omara, I want you to take a moment and share your journey. You and I have talked, we were just talking before we came on air about how you grew up in New York and you moved to Chicago and you saw a need. You were a human being who saw a need, and you didn't wait for somebody else to fill that need. You decided to take things on. Walk us through what that journey looked like and what transformed you to do the things that you do and live the way you live today.
Thank you. So I grew up in New York City. When you're a New York City person, you don't even think about the things that you do. You see 1,000 people, you talk to so many people, you're always involved, you're always being hugged by your neighbors, and your neighbors knew if you were doing something bad, you knew you were going to get in trouble by everybody, and everybody recognized you, even in such a big city, no matter what you were doing. When I moved to Chicago, I noticed that people were not as open to being with kids all the time and showing them, and the kids had their areas, and the distance started growing more and more. And I noticed that even school-wise, it was the teachers here and the students are here, and there was not a whole lot of connection emotional. Mm-hmm. And so as I started seeing some of these kids who they had families, but they were so tough on the exterior that when you walked up to them and say, "Hey, give me a hug," they would almost like stand off from you, like, "What are you doing? You know, we don't do that kind of stuff. We're not open like that." And then I noticed that a lot of the kids were being judged as, oh my God, the stuff that they listen to, what they're wearing nowadays, what they're doing, oh my, I would never have said. And here's the issue: when we disconnect so much from remembering who we were growing up and what we used to sneak around and do and the things we did, when we forget all that, these kids get lost in their own world, and now their rules become what they know to be the norm. And I just wanted to show them not every adult is like that. I had very strict, what I call laws in my house, which applied to anyone who came in, didn't care who you were. But by the same token, we would all listen to the same hip hop music and rap music, no matter what the words said now or anything like that. I didn't judge that part. I just joined in and had fun. But when it was time for a serious conversation, we had the ability and had developed a relationship to where I could say, hey, you know, this is messed up. This is not what you want to do. You don't want to face life like this. I promise you, this is going to bite you in the butt when you get older, and you don't want this. And those hard conversations are things that most parents and school teachers and even church community leaders don't want to face head on, because a lot of times you have to face what you did growing up. You can't just say, well, because I'm the parent or I'm the adult. No, they want to know, well, what happened to you or what was going on? And you have to be willing to be honest and open for them to be vulnerable and open with you.
I love what I am hearing you say, Omara, because too many times adults pretend like they were born perfect. None of us are, and we had made our mistakes to get to where we are. And just like in the workplace, we say leaders need to be vulnerable for the team to actually look up to you and follow you and build a successful organization. So should parents. Can we be vulnerable without judgment and give them the opportunity? Ultimately, we are creating a sense of belonging to make them feel included so that they can blossom into who they were meant to be. And what I am seeing and connecting the dots here is when we don't raise children to feel that they belong, and we don't raise children to feel like they're included in the family and the society, no amount of diversity programs at work is going to change it, because we've hardwired everybody.
We give them a toughness that they don't have to have. So that shield is so tough and so hard that it's almost impossible to get through once they get past the age of 14, 15, 16. And if you look at the news today, it's amazing, these younger and younger children, the trouble that they're getting into. The range of kids that I deal with, and I say kids now because some of them are grown men with families and everything else now, 16 to 34 and 35. Sometimes those even 34 and 35-year-olds, when you dig into their history, you know, they've had friends that have been murdered. We ourselves lost someone very dear to us in 2015. He was killed by a bullet, and that still devastates me. And then even, it's been a year now, actually 2 years now, we lost someone on a fentanyl overdose on spring break. And those losses are devastating because there's so much potential that they had, and it's wiped out over some just silliness and something that just didn't have to happen if we just had a more calm society that's willing to accept them and not exclude them so that they become their own mental thoughts. And that's tough. It's a tough barrier to break with a lot of these kids. And I say kids, but they are really young men. Even my own son, he was literally raised by just myself. I have a lot of great friends and some family members, but I don't have any immediate family here. And I was very overprotective and very hard on him. And I always told him, the day that you start acting up or start doing anything that I don't agree with, everybody is kicked out of my house. I won't deal with any other kids, because how can I be the example and show them what to do if my own son can't follow a rule? So as long as he was doing fine, and thank God he is almost 23 years old now, he's coming up on 23. I have yet to have an issue with him. And yet he's the one who's also opened up and told these kids, no, our house, you can talk to us about anything. You know, if you got to come over and you got to spend a few nights or do whatever, come on. and we talk it out. We have family meetings, we've had family discussions, we have just that time that is needed, and in a makeshift family that we create. And like I said, not to take ever away from anybody's family, because they all have them. But this is just a place where they feel it's okay to be themselves. And it's okay, no matter at what level they are.
And that is such an important service. And you don't do it as a service, you do it as a way of being, right? This is who you are.
Absolutely.
What moved you to give a space for boys? Because the reason I asked this question is the whole world is focused on empowering women. And that is about giving women permission and the tools to embrace their masculinity, right? Go after a career, figure out a way to do your craft and thrive and be successful and own your power. Those are all masculinity. So we're teaching and coaching and mentoring girls to embrace their masculinity because they are comfortable in their femininity. But I don't see anybody, and this is something I focus on too, I don't see anybody giving men permission, the coaching and the mentoring, to truly support their femininity side. And their femininity is about nurturing, it's about caring, it's about being compassionate, it's about being able to be kind and to be gentle and have grace for themselves and others. The reason 70 to 80% of the suicide are men is because they have been taught you cannot show emotion, you cannot feel.
Correct.
You just do, right? But that then negates the fundamental fact that we are feeling creatures who happen to think. We're not thinking beings who happen to feel. We're feeling beings who happen to think and act, right? So men being empowered is not something the society is embracing.
Exactly.
And the men don't grow up knowing how to be vulnerable, how to be intimate, how to hold space for themselves or for each other. And that is why I love about what you do. You're giving them those tools and those skills and giving them an environment of cultivating that with permission. And they're watching you and your son blossom into the person he's meant to be because he has a mom who gives him that permission. And now he's bringing other people and giving them permission to be themselves. That is a beautiful thing. How do you feel others are embracing and supporting it? Or do you feel like you're generally the only one in your circle doing this?
The issue is the things that I have faced in my life and the relationships that I've had and the things that have gone on have taught me what was missing. And so what I learned was that every man is taught lust and anger. And that range of emotions in between, I'm hurt, I'm sad, I'm proud, I'm not feeling emotionally strong right now. This is scaring me. All those things are not allowed. You're either lustful or you're angry. And then they are given, here, have a drink, or here, smoke this or whatever, a distraction from whatever they are dealing with. And that is the hardest thing to tell them. It's okay to feel, this is okay to feel this. It's okay to be angry once in a while, but some of that anger comes from what? You feel jealous, you feel insecure, you're upset about something. What is exactly driving it? And it's okay to still be angry, you have to be. Because being vulnerable does not mean you're weak. And that is something that we just cannot instill enough in these young men, because if they don't show their toughness, they're going to get hurt, they're going to get killed, they're going to get abused, they're whatever it is, or worse than anything, they will be ignored. They just don't stick out. If they don't make enough noise, if they don't show their toughness, if they don't show this, they just won't be counted in this world. They won't exist. And that loss of purpose creates a loss of spirit And once that spirit is gone, what we deal with is horrendous. It's sad, it's horrible, it's hard. I'm an elected official in my town, but I'm also the police clerk. And oftentimes I'll see some of my kids out in town, or even kids that I don't know. And I'm like, right now, I'm not the elected official and I'm not the police clerk. I'm that mom. And I will go off in ways that most people would be like, did you just, yeah, because sometimes they need that. There's a thing about you're supposed to have 9 hugs a day. Honestly, I think probably I get about 30. And it's just, so, here, get a hug. It's okay. Now you can explode. What is going on? Blah, 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 and you hear all this stuff. Okay, now what? All right, bye. And, and they're gone. And that's okay, because it gave them that moment to be them. And that's it. Just that moment. Be you, but be okay with that without it having to be that strong, hard shell that no one can get past, because that's where we lose them.
And they are technically calluses and walls as opposed to a shield, right? Shield is supposed to protect, but these are coping mechanisms that they will never shed, right?
Yeah.
And this cuts across race, it cuts across geography. Men all over the world are told to be tough. And how do we teach young boys and young men that it takes courage to be vulnerable, so that when they grow up to be men and they are leaders in the community, they understand the power and the courage it takes to be vulnerable, to be kind, to be gentle, and to have grace for themselves and others. Because that's not something we teach our boys.
No, I have a saying, and some people just look at me when I say it. There's a difference between a man and a male. And a male is a 4-letter word to me. Because being a man is what you aspire to be. You want to be that grown man who takes care of things. You do what you're supposed to do. Being just a male, it's just what you're born with, is your genes, your genetics. You're just a male. Becoming a man is not anything that is easy. Those steps are hard. And in this world, we keep wanting to take shortcuts, like a microwave instead of, using an oven. And we get used to that, and it becomes our mental thinking that everything is okay, well, this I have to have, this I have to do, this I'm gonna be this, and that's it. There are steps to everything. And the more steps we cut, the more corners we cut, the deeper of our spirit leaves, because it's not meant for that. We're meant to be nurtured like a plant. You have to take care of it every day, every day. You have to look at it. You have to take out the bad weeds. The bad leaves, and then put in more soil. Life is like that. And if we don't take that time with these young men when they are old enough to become who they should be, the head of a household, after their heavenly father, or who they believe in, their higher spirit, they're not ready for that step. And then you have these masculine females that will come in and just step on them, and they weren't ready for that. They weren't ready to let a woman just be a woman. So I see it and I feel it and I hear them, and just try and let them know that there's somebody to go through the steps with them when they need it.
That is such a powerful and yet important work that you do. How can people reach out to you and talk to you about getting guidance on how they can replicate and they can build a similar environment in their communities?
Well, it's my real government name on Facebook. I'll be honest. It's Omara, Omara Fonseca, Fonseca. And if you look on my page, it doesn't even say where I work. It doesn't say I'm an elected official. It doesn't say I'm a police clerk. It doesn't. The reason I do that is because my page is open to anyone and everyone. And I want to keep that openness all the time. If anyone wants to come and talk to me, I'm in Calumet Park. I'm at the records division. I'm very easy to find. I don't hide from anyone or anything. Just reach out. Everyone needs a place to just be them. It's okay. It's okay to start somewhere. And there's some kids that I have tried and I failed with. There's some kids that at the end of the day, they will not understand it until they have gone through enough hurt and devastation and problems that then they reach back out to me and say, Mom, you were so right. I'm sorry. Or Mom, I'm here now because I couldn't figure it out back then. And that's okay too, because that's still part of the growing. As long as they were alive, there's still hope. There's still a chance. And that's what hurts so bad about the ones we've lost, is that there was so much potential. There was such greatness that you could see coming, and it stopped. It stopped. So you want to get to them before it stops. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And letting them know that they can always come back, because you can always come home. You can always come home, and home is a feeling. And giving that, you're giving them hope. I would love to open this up for conversation with our live audience here. Robin, Elisa, we have a few minutes to have an open conversation. Go ahead, Robin.
I'll just ask a quick question. I have a little bit of a cold. But I loved your comment about having hard conversations, being able to, gently, kindly, or maybe not so gently and kindly, be able to honestly. And how are you able to reach inside and get the fortitude to have those hard conversations? What helps you decide?
It is one of those things that if you know you are right, in my Heavenly Father, I know that what I'm trying to do is right. Your presentation, how you try and open up and say, look, I see the pain in you, no matter what you're saying. I see it. So when you are ready to just talk without being judged, without me criticizing, without me calling the cops, without me doing whatever, I am here. And that little opening, they'll start coming, not right away, but little by little, they'll understand that you're not there to judge them. You're not there to criticize. You're not there to, like I said, call the authorities if you have to. You're that, and then work it out from there. It takes time. And that's what a lot of times, even as an adult, we're in such a crazy, fast-paced world doing everything, that the time that it takes to nurture a child is better than the time it would take to have to send an adult to prison.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Omara. Thank you so much, Omara.
Thank you. I appreciate your platform.
I am so honored that you came this morning to have this conversation. You are somebody I have always cherished. Our friendship was one of those serendipitous things that happened, and we've stayed in touch. And I've had the honor and pleasure of watching you watch your son grow into a handsome, impactful young man. And I look forward to actually continuing to have these conversations, bringing you into these forums and helping shape this world, because we do need to start helping our boys so that our men have a fighting chance. We need to find a way to give grown men the ability to feel,
yes,
to give them permission to be vulnerable. It's not something you tell them at 35, 40 years old. Now, in order to keep your title, you need to learn to be vulnerable, and you need to learn to be inclusive. It's not a switch one can flip. It has to be cultivated. And so there is a lot of work to do in a society that doesn't even recognize the fact that this need exists.
Correct.
And there's a lot of work to be done. So I look forward to taking this continued journey with you. And thank you so much.
Thank you
for having this conversation.
Absolutely.
What closing thoughts you have as we wrap this up? If you were to have one nugget of wisdom for every adult every employer, every leader, every parent, every community activist, every adult, what is one piece of advice you have?
Think of your scariest moment when you had to tell whatever scared you the most to someone, how you felt. That fear is what everyone feels. So just accept it. Help them understand that that fear is okay, but there's someone there who's been through it. And let's get to the other side. We're there.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's it, folks. Remember, your deepest, darkest, most fearful moment. Be in that moment so that you can give other people that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And you need to know how to do it. You can reach out to Omara Fonseca. If you can't find her, you reach out to me and I will put you onto her, because we need very compassionate, caring, emotionally strong men so that they can be good partners to our empowered, successful daughters, right? We need sons who are capable of being life partners to our daughters. We need to lift up both. So let's take this opportunity and remember, every human interaction is our opportunity for transformation. So go out there, embrace the humanity you meet, take the opportunity to transform. And in that process, you'd be surprised how deeply and how movingly you yourself are going to be transformed.